Good morning and welcome back to Talk About It Tuesdays here at CUNY Athletics, sponsored by Hospital for Special Surgery. Our apologies for some tech issues, and we're starting a little bit late, so thank you for sticking with us. Throughout this series, we've been focusing on issues that impact our student athletes directly. If you've missed any of our previous educational webinars, please go to cunyathletics.com or YouTube. Today's webinar will be a great webinar to help our student athletes as we navigate these difficult times and our efforts to return to play. So today, we are going to focus on sports nutrition, and I'm honored and pleased to have Deborah Sada here today. Deborah works at Queens College and has a BS in nutrition and dietitian. Deborah, did I get that correctly?
Nutrition and dietetics.
Okay, nutrition and dietetics. Okay. Well, thank you for joining us today, and I'm going to let you take it away. And as always, students, please send your questions through the chat, and we will get to the questions towards the end of the presentation. So,
thank you, Ryan, and good morning, everybody. Let me share this screen and bear with me because all this technology, you know. There you go. Sports nutrition. Nutrition for optimal performance. So the objectives are basically explain the basic of nutrition, explain how nutrition might be modified to meet the needs of athletes, and the Q&A. Those are the objectives. Let's see the overview. In the first part, we're going to be talking about Nutrition 101, that's what I call it. We're going to go through macronutrients, hydration, and in part 2, electrolytes, pre, post-workout, bespoke approach of the meal plans, how to gain, maintain, or lose weight, and the Q&A. All right? I hope you like it. So let's see a little bit about me before we start. As Ryan mentioned, I got my bachelor's degree in nutrition and dietetics from Queens College. I am also a member of the National Society of Leadership and Success, Honor Society, a member of the Phi Upsilon Omicron Honor Society as well, and president Phi at Queens College, and founder of Think Nutriology. Then a little bit about my story, how I ended up in nutrition, because originally I was in technology. I was a computer IT, and I was studying economics. But you can see here the pictures say more than words, I guess. In 2016, I was diagnosed with hypothyroidism, fatty liver, and metabolic syndrome. So yeah, I was in bad shape. However, I realized that nutrition was the answer. And as I put there, the rest is history. But it took a lot of effort because not only you have to learn about what is nutrition, but you have to also make behavioral changes and sort of like rebuild yourself from the ground up. But that's the result, as you can see, you know, that before I was almost 200 pounds and now it's 140. Part 1. The sport nutrition, the integration of application of scientifically based nutrition and exercise physiology. Principles that support and enhance training, performance, and recovery. So basically here we are having a marriage between physiology and nutrition to try to get a peak performance of the athletes And even if you're not an athlete, still you just want to practice a sport, you can take advantage of learning nutrition and apply to the physiology. You have, a good combination. You can get easier to your goals. Macronutrients. Everybody says fats, protein, carbs. Those are the macronutrients. Nobody really calls them macronutrients, but that's the name. So they're also called, known as macros. These are nutrients that our body uses in relatively large amounts and therefore need to be received daily. We need to consume them from our food. As I mentioned, there are three: fat, protein, and carbs. Your body also requires micronutrients. We're going to talk about that a little further. But let's talk about protein. Protein is the main building block of our body. Basically, those proteins, which are the amino acids, we're built out of that. So we need to maintain and repair tissues and bones and muscles. And that's the job of the protein. Fat and carbohydrates provide fuel for all our bodily functions and activities, such as doing exercise or just walking, existing. We need energy for that. So carbs and fat provide them. Fat and protein are essential macronutrients, meaning they are necessary for survival because our body can produce them on its own, and we need it. We need to eat them. Each of the three primary macronutrients affect the body differently. To make sure that we are getting the right amount of each macronutrient in our diet, it will help to understand the role each micro plays in our body. So let's talk about carbs first. Carbohydrates are the body's preferred fuel source, converting carbohydrates into immediately usable energy. It's easier for the body than converting fat or protein into fuel. Your brain, muscles, and cells all need carbohydrates to function. When we consume carbohydrates, the food is converted into sugars that enter the bloodstream. These sugars, in the form of glucose, can be an immediate source of energy or stored in the body's cells, and that's the store, that's fat, to be used at another time. Carbohydrates are especially important for athletes. They are the most important fuel source during exercise. So the recommended consumption would be roughly 3 to 12 grams of carbohydrates per kilogram of body weight per day. Of course, this depends on the sport, the type, or the training, gender, a lot of factors that are important to mention. Timing also is important, if it's before the exercise or after the exercise. And the carbohydrates, we have two types: the complex, which are the ones that are recommended. And by the way, shout out to Miss Henao and Miss Aldovino. They always keep me in check because I'm sometimes too drastic with my approach. So thank you for that. Complex carbs, they are slowly digested. They are really high in fiber, vitamins, and minerals. Have more steady impact on blood glucose levels. They provide really a steady energy. It's like an energy source that won't peak like the simple carbs. An example of that, vegetables, beans, whole grains, leafy greens. Simple carbs, the ones that we all love, right? They want the M&Ms, the Snickers, the donuts, you name it, the soda, everything with lots of sugar. Yeah, I was there one time, so that's what I'm saying. So the simple carbs are made of 1 or 2 sugar units and can be broken down fairly quickly in the body. Simple carbs have a fleeting impact on blood sugar levels and typically rise quickly and drop after consuming simple carbs, which means that when you eat a simple carb, it will not produce the same as the complex that keeps the glucose steady, but rather go in a peak. And after the peak, guess what? You're gonna crash. So watch your simple carbs. Protein. Here it is. Protein provides the body with amino acids, which are the building blocks for muscle and other important structures such as the brain, nervous system, blood, skin, and hair. Protein also transports oxygen and other important nutrients. In the absence of glucose or carbohydrates, the body can reverse process and use that as a fuel tool, but unrecommended because that would mean that you're consuming your muscles, and that's not recommended. Our body makes, 11 amino acids on its own. We need 20, but we managed to make 11. But 9 are really essentials that our body cannot make, and we get that from the food. We can consume different types of protein to get these amino acids. We have what is called the complete proteins and the incomplete proteins. The complete provide all of the amino acids, and the incomplete, as the name says, they don't have all the amino acids. All right, daily requirements for protein vary depending on, sex, age, BMI, all these factors. But the protein requirements of a normal adult are roughly 0.75 grams per kilogram of body weight per day. For strength and endurance athletes, protein requirements are increased to around 1.2 or to 1.7 kilograms per body weight per day. So if you are, depending on what kind of athlete, if you are, for example, you play, basketball, or you are body weight builder, it depends. It will vary between that 1.2 to 1.7, and depending on the goals of each athlete as well. Let's talk about fats. Everybody used to hate fats, but now, thank God, they are understanding that fat is good. We need fat. So fat, people might try to avoid fat in their diets, but dietary fat plays an important role in the body. Fat provides an important source of energy in times of starvation or caloric deprivation. It is also necessary for insulation, proper cell function, and healthy weight. There are different types of fat that can be part of your daily diet, especially dietary fats. We have the saturated fats, mostly come from meat and dairy sources. These fats are generally solid at room temperature and tend to be shelf stable for a long time. And the unsaturated fats include 2 other types, which is the monosaturated and the polyunsaturated fats. Recommended nutrient intake for athletes, as I was mentioning before. The ratios may vary depending on the sport and the goals, but roughly this is the standard at 20% of fat, protein 25%, and a 55% carbs. The micronutrients, these are the bodies of the macronutrients. So the term micronutrient is used to describe vitamins and minerals in general. Our body needs a smaller amount of micronutrients relatively to the macronutrients. So that's why they are labeled micro. So we humans must obtain micronutrients from foods, since our body cannot really produce vitamins and minerals, except for a few like vitamin K, for the most part. And that's why they are also referred to as essential nutrients. And the micronutrients content of each food is different, so it's best to eat a variety of foods to get enough vitamins and minerals. An adequate intake of all micronutrients is necessary for optimal health, as each vitamin and mineral has a specific role in our body. Vitamins and minerals are vital for growth, immune function, brain development, and many other important functions. Like for example, we have different kinds of vitamins, which I'm going to explain right now, but one that we need a lot is vitamin D, and we get most of it from the sun. So, the vitamins. Organic compounds, we all know that, and they are essential. And they usually act as coenzymes or cofactors for various proteins in the body. They're divided in two, as you can see here in the slide. We have the fat soluble and the water soluble. The fat soluble are A, D, E, and K, and the water soluble are the B complex and the C. Here we have the vitamin, the water soluble. You can see vitamin 1, aka thiamine. And each of these vitamins has a unique role, but they all share also one common function, which is basically they all interact and help in the energy production. They don't have energy per se, but they are involved in the metabolism of the energy that we get from our food. So they're very important. So as you can see, water-soluble vitamins play an important role in energy production, but also have several other functions. Since these vitamins are not stored in our body, it's important to get enough of them from food, different than the fat soluble. We're going to see it in a moment why. The fat solubles are the A, D, E, and K. And these ones, different than the water soluble, these ones are stored in our fat tissues and in the liver. So we have to be more careful because they can build up. And if they build up, they can build up to toxic levels. So we gotta watch how much of the fat soluble vitamins we get. They are best absorbed when consumed alongside of a source of fat. Fat solubles are stored, as I said, in the liver and in the fatty tissues. And the common names, as you see, is A, D, E, and K. Sources and recommended intakes are here. I put this table here so you can see roughly the RDAs for all these vitamins. Vitamin A with 700 to 900 micrograms. Vitamin D with 600 to 800 IU, international units. Vitamin E with 15 milligrams. And vitamin K with 90 to 120 micrograms per day. The macrominerals, a little bit, the quantity is a little more than the micro. So the macrominerals are needed in larger amounts than trace minerals in order to perform their specific roles in your body, in our body. The microminerals, some of their, calcium, phosphorus, magnesium, sodium, chloride, potassium. We need this, for example, to control the balance of fluids in our body. We're gonna see this in a little bit. Microminerals, trace minerals. These are little bits of minerals. So the trace minerals are needed in smaller amounts than microminerals, but still enable important functions in our body. The trace minerals and some of their functions are, as you can see here, iron, manganese, copper, iodine, fluoride, selenium. Selenium, very important for the thyroid, the normal, the optimal function of the thyroid depends on selenium. So it's important to keep all these microminerals, and we get those from food. Hydration. The human body comprises around 65% of water. We all learned that throughout the years, right? But optimal performance relies on having enough fluid in our bodies. All of the fuels, all the vitamins and minerals, everything rely on water to travel from our cells. You know? Oxygen also travels through water into our muscle cells, and then CO2 comes out. This exchange of nutrients, oxygen and waste happens all of the time, but it's amped during sport, which is why we breathe harder and faster when we are doing some kind of a sport, and we need to hydrate. Hydrate when we are doing some sort of exercise. It's commonly recommended 8 glasses of 8 ounces, but you can go a little farther than that. Don't overdo it either, but it's recommended. Lots of hydration. Because dehydration can decrease performance. And we don't want that, especially as athletes, right? Let's go a little bit farther into the hydration. How can we tell if we are hydrated? Well, the first one is easy, right? We feel thirsty. By feeling thirsty, you have like already 1% of dehydration. Reduce performance by 2%. But one method to see if you are really going okay through the day when you are not really doing any kind of exercise is through the color of your urine. As you can see here in this little image, when you're hydrated, the color tends to be yellowish, but it's a yellowish, light color yellowish. When you're dehydrated, it gets yellow, darker yellow. And well, when you are having some issues with your kidneys, then it will be really dark brown, and you need to consult your doctor if you get to that point. So hopefully nobody gets there. So how much hydration? Well, before exercise, as you can see here on the screen. 2 to 3 hours before the exercise, between 2 and 2.5 cups, which means 16 to 20 ounces of water. Before the exercise, 1 hour, another cup of 8 to 10 ounces with electrolytes. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. During the exercise, every 20 to 30 minutes, but water, don't consume any snack or anything like that. And after the exercise, 125 to 150% of body weight loss. So that means a lot of water to replenish what we have lost during the exercise. All right, so that was a crash course of nutrition. We basically talk about proteins, carbohydrates, fats, macronutrients, which is basically the vitamins and the minerals. And we also talk about hydration. So now we can go into, a little bit more fun. And I would like to know how we're doing. How we're doing. So if you have questions, please put them in the chat. So now that we have learned all the basics, we're going to use all the nutritional information to talk about electrolytes, pre and post workout, meal plans, bespoke approach for gain, maintain, or lose weight, and last but not least, Q&A. So let's go. Electrolytes. So do you remember that we were talking about the minerals? Okay, so what are electrolytes? Electrolytes are minerals in your body that have an electric charge. They are in your blood, urine, tissues, and other body fluids. Electrolytes are important because they will help to keep the balance in your system. So balance the amount of water in your body, balance your body as acid and base pH level, move nutrients into your cell or out of your cell, move waste out of your cells, make sure that your nerves, muscles, the heart, and the brain work the way they're supposed to. So who are these electrolytes? Well, the sodium, the calcium, potassium, chloride, phosphate, and magnesium are all electrolytes. As we previously discussed, we get them from the foods you eat, we all eat. And the levels of electrolytes in our body can become too low or too high. This can happen when the amount of water in our bodies changes. That's why it's important to keep a good level of hydration. Pre-workout, a little bit of water, talking about hydration. All right, so when it comes to pre-workout, we want to really choose foods high in carbohydrates, moderate in protein, and low in fiber and fat. And why we want to do this? Because as I mentioned at the beginning, carbohydrates are the easy way for the body to get the energy. So for this specifically situation that you are before a workout, you need that glycogen, which is the energy in your system, to be there ready so you can use it. If you eat at this moment too high in protein or too high in fiber, you will not have all that energy available. Of course, this is for athletes. For a regular person that is not practicing any kind of exercise, this won't apply. But in this case, for athletes, it does apply. We need to get, we call it fuel. We need to get all the energy ready and available so we can perform. So roughly we're talking 500, 600 calories meal of complex carbohydrates, not simple. Remember, simple will crash you. So complex. Moderate protein, low fat, and fluid. That's pre-workout. During the workout time, let's stick to water every 20 to 30 minutes or as you feel, but please not Coke, no, not soda, not even the Gatorade because it has too much sugar. You don't want that. You don't need that at that moment. You need water. So stick to the water, filter water, and rehydrate as you need throughout the exercise. Post-workout. The goal is to provide fuel for muscle recovery and replenishment. So it's recommended a full meal within 2 hours of the workout. And in this case, we reduce a little bit the carbs, but we increase the protein, right? The pre-workout was different, was the opposite. More carbs, less protein, less fat. In this case, it's more protein. So we can recuperate, we can recover what we have spent in terms of muscle mass. So lean protein plus complex carbohydrates is equal to an optimal recovery. Around 20 grams of protein will be awesome. Periodization, that basically is what leads to the meal plans, right? But what I said is basically involves the changing in the intensity and volume of training, and in the same fashion, the nutrition, because as you change the training and you probably are trying to perform more, you're gonna need more from the nutrition. So it refers to a nutrition plan developed to support the various training cycles. It should match the training plan. So if you go harder, then we need to increase the nutrients. Bespoke approach, we're getting to the meal plans, right? So these meal plans are to gain, maintain, or lose weight. So a 2,000 calorie diet is considered standard, right? Everybody knows, oh yeah, 2,000 calories. But this is standard. And in a way, it meets the nutritional needs of most people. However, depending on the activity level, like body size and goals, you may need more or less. So your daily calorie needs are based on several factors, including gender, as I mentioned before. It's, for example, for women, generally is 5 to 10% fewer calories at rest than men of the same height. Age is another factor, height, and activity level. So daily caloric needs range from 1,600 to 2,400 per day for an adult woman, and 2,000 to 3,000 calories for an adult man. With the low ends of the ranges being for sedentary people and the high ends for those who are active, right? So these estimates are based on equations and using an average height and healthy weight. The reference for a woman is 5'4" with 163 centimeters of tall, and for men is 5'10", who which is 178 centimeters tall, and 154 pounds. I didn't mention the pounds for the ladies are 126 pounds. All right, so though athletes generally have higher calorie needs than the general public, of course. But you know, people with physically demanding jobs as well, they need more calories, such as farmers, laborers, construction workers, etc. Now, this concept of the calories has been out there for a long time, and I believe that in order to achieve physical changes, we need to look beyond the calories. I'm not saying it's wrong. It is right, but we need to add another component to it. And in this case, we need to observe the source of the food, which means ideally food that is organic, so we can avoid pesticides. The ratio of micronutrients, as I was talking before, the proteins and the carbs, in which ratio, and to be able to control drastic physiological reactions, such as a spike of insulin. You know, if you eat too much carbs, you're going to have the glucose go up, and right away after that glucose goes up, your insulin is going to go up to control that glucose and bring it down. So you don't want those spikes right away. So controlling ratios is very important, more important than the calories. That's why I said that we need to observe those factors. And one that very few people take in consideration, but I do, is the food intolerance. Because, you know, be mindful that there are many people out there that are intolerant to certain things. Like, for example, I am intolerant to gluten. I eat gluten, I'm gonna get inflammation. I get inflammation, I'm gonna get insulin high, because that's the response of the body. You get insulin high, believe me, you are not gonna perform well, and you're gonna end up even gaining some weight. So if you control your glucose and you control your insulin, you control your weight, you control your performance. All right, so gaining and maintaining weight. As you can see here, this is slightly different than what they taught us in school, right? The famous MyPlate. And of course, to finish undergrad, you have to go by the MyPlate and repeat it. But here I am confessing that I disagree to that, because it's not the optimal way. This is a better way, and this is what's presented by Harvard University, and I like it because it's basically splitting the plate in more veggies, more protein, water, not milk or dairy, whole grains, fruits, and healthy oils, because that's another problem that causes inflammation, which is consuming canola oil, consuming masola oil. All these oils, stick to the ones that are healthy, which is avocado oil, coconut oil, MCT oils. All those oils are good. So to maintain or gain weight, if you are classified as underweight, probably you're going to need your doctor or your dietitian to recommend that you gain weight. Now, if you are not in problems or have health problems, but rather you are an athlete, you may want to gain weight just to perform better, right? Gain some muscle mass ideally to perform better. So similarly, if you are a bodybuilder or into powerlifting, you may desire to gain weight for increased muscle size and strength. So how fast can you gain weight depends on how many calories you need to maintain your weight. So here is where the part of the calories come back, and that's why I said that it's not that it's a bad approach, it's just an approach that needs to be tweaked and enhanced. But here is the part where we need to increase the calories. Keep the ratios, keep healthy ratios, but increase the calories so you can gain the muscle that you need, the weight that you need. So that's basically how you're gonna maintain or gain. If you keep it under 2,000, just generalizing because each person needs a specific calculation, which we can do with an equation, but not to make things complicated nowadays. You probably don't even need the equation. You might need an app. Just download it in your phone. And you need to calculate for your height, your weight, your gender, how many calories do you need per day. And again, you keep the healthy ratios of this plate that I am showing right now, and you play with the amounts, the quantity in terms of calories. So you increase or decrease. So you're gonna maintain or gain. All right? Lose weight. For losing weight, basically, we need to observe a slightly different approach than the gain and maintain. Again, we have to keep healthy ratios, healthy food, healthy sources, organic, most likely, ideal to avoid pesticides, good fats to avoid inflammation. But in this case, we are going to observe a reduction in the intake, right? Because while weight loss is much more complex than calories in and calories out, way of thinking, generally speaking, is a calorie deficit needs to be created to lose body fat, which means typically a reduction of, let's say, 500 calories per day. That's the suggestion. That means that in a week, you're going to be losing kind of like a pound. If you add up all days, 500 times 7 is 3,500, and that's equal to 1 pound of fat. So in the math, yeah, sounds perfect. But again, we watch the intake, we watch the calories, but we also observe the ratios and the quality of the food. Added to all that, we need to take in consideration the behavioral modification, which means if a person is used to have 6 meals a day because somebody told that person, oh yes, having 6 or 7 little meals throughout the day is better. No, it's not better. Not quite science backing up that. Plus, if you go through the physiology of the body, you will observe that every time that you eat a little bit of that meal or 7 meals, you're producing insulin. And if you produce insulin, that's a hormone that helps to grow. So you're gonna get bigger and fatter and overweight by eating a little bit every 2 hours or 3 hours. In other words, what you need to do is to control how many times you eat. Therefore, you're going to control how many times your body produces insulin. By doing that, you're going to really lose weight. Because it's not just lose weight. It's sort of like we first get healthy and then we lose weight. And for a lot of people, I'm not saying for everybody, but for most of the people, they get stuck and they cannot lose weight because they keep on following these fat diets of eating frequently, eating small portions, and that doesn't work because you keep on producing insulin. So the behavioral modification comes in handy at this moment because we have to change our behavior. We need to spread 2 meals throughout the day And that's about it. If it's difficult at the beginning, of course, we try first 3, but please, no 5, no 6, no 7. 3 the maximum, and from that we have to observe to bring it to 2. This is what is called, now I know it's famous now, but even before it was famous, it's called intermittent fasting or time restricted feeding. And it works because what you're doing basically is controlling your spike of glucose and insulin. That's the reason why it works. It's not really a diet, it's more like a lifestyle. Because if you do that, you're going to control many things that you cannot control with these little frequent meals. And at the end of the day, you want to lose weight, you want to feel good. So consider that. Consider a behavioral change. And I know you're going to probably need help from a professional, but that's why we all nutritionists and dietitians are here to help. And that's about it in terms of lose weight. Not only deficit of calories, but the quality of the food, the frequency of the meals, and one last thing that is very important, do not snack, because you call it a snack, still is a meal. So if you say, oh no, I only have 3 meals a day, oh really? And then, but I snack twice. Okay, then you don't have 3 meals a day, you have 5. You want to call it a snack or you want to call it Mary? It's up to you how you call it. But you are putting something in your mouth, you're activating the whole system, you are producing insulin, that's a meal. So no 5, 3 or 2, all right? And thank you very much. That's all, folks. I hope that you like it. I hope that you have questions, and let's see, Ryan, what you have for me.
Hi, Deborah. That was a lot of great information in here. We've got quite a bit of questions that we'd love to get to. And so these are all student questions. Some students did this anonymously, but really good questions as I read through this. So I'm just going to start from the beginning, if that's okay, Deborah.
That's fine. That's fine.
Okay, so the first question says, rice and beans are a big part of my culture, but I'm often told that I should not consume too much rice. So I try to eat it once a day, every other day. How bad is white rice, and how much better is brown rice compared?
Okay, let me explain a little bit about the rice and beans, because from one point of view, yes, it is actually good source of carbs and fiber and protein, because while the bean is still a protein but an incomplete protein, it gets complete when it gets together with the rice. So it's a good marriage. However, as I was mentioning in the presentation, it depends on the amount, the frequency, and how it's cooked. If it's just that you go to a restaurant and you eat rice and beans, chances are none of that food is organic. That's one. Second, they probably use canola oil to cook. So that's also another factor. So in order to make those rice and beans healthy, I will do the following. I will get rice and beans organic. I will get rice, not the brown, contrary to what everybody recommends. I know they say, oh no, the brown, but the brown has something called lectins. That is an anti-nutrient that is going to cause inflammation. And when it causes inflammation, it's going to cause your insulin to go up too. And you're going to be in a state that you cannot really lose your weight, you cannot be healthy. So let's control inflammation by switching to a long grain organic rice like basmati rice. That's a good rice. And the frequency. If you want to eat the rice and beans in a healthy version with the long grain and the organic beans, eat it probably no more than twice a week. And like that is really healthy. But if you eat that every day, it might be causing inflammation and more damage than benefit. I understand also on the other hand that sometimes, you know, it's hard to get food, but I recommend also for the CUNY students, we can go to the food pantries. I myself support and help the food pantry at Queens College. So you don't have to really live on rice and beans. You can have other things to have a variety of food. So yeah, in general terms, rice and beans is healthy, but depends how you cook that and how often do you eat it during the week.
That's great advice. The next question we have is, I've been told to eat more protein than to consume meat. I'm 6'3", 160 pounds. I'm light for my height, but need to improve my strength.
Cut off.
I've been thinking about going vegetarian, but still.
You totally cut off. Can you repeat it, please?
So this food. Sure. So this student athlete is trying to put on some more weight for his size. And he asks, he says, I'm thinking about going vegetarian, but still will consume some fish and chicken to meet my protein needs. Are a lot of vegetarian protein sources good for muscle development?
Okay. Unfortunately, no. And yes, a lot of people are going to jump. My friends are going to jump. My colleagues are going to jump. My professor, what are you saying, Deborah? But yes, I will say going vegetarian, not the best route. Consuming a lot of veggies, yes. But if you really want to put some muscle, you need the proteins, the good ones, the real ones. You need to eat a steak, but not just any steak, an organic, pasture-raised, grass-fed, organic, you know, piece of a steak. If you cannot do that, or you don't want because you don't like meat, okay, stick with chicken and fish, as he was saying, or she, I don't know. But yes, you need the proteins, the animal proteins. You can probably use both the vegetable proteins and the vegetarian proteins, but you cannot really run away from the animal, because then you're not going to have that amount of development that you can achieve with that. But I understand some people, oh no, I don't like the red meat. Okay, but you're going to need that salmon. You're going to need it. You're going to need that chicken. And depending on how you train, as I mentioned in the presentation, you need to load up or no, more carbs or more protein, depending on the situation. So yeah, I won't really recommend going vegetarian all the way. No. I cannot hear you. I lost you. Hello?
So you mentioned vitamin D in your presentation. So how much sun exposure do we need to make, do we need to have to get the recommended amount of vitamin D?
Vitamin D, as I mentioned, you can get it from sun exposure. So let's say go for a walk in the park for a good 45 minutes, and then you're good. You're good for the day. We get also vitamin D from food, but it's good to combine both, because the vitamin from the food usually is D2 and from the sun is D3, and our body tends to like D3 a little better. We can still process both, but yes, go for a walk for a good 30-45 minutes. That's really what you should do. Especially now that we are with this COVID-19 and we are at home all the time. for your health, for the vitamin D, and for your mental health, go for an hour of walk. That will seal the deal. Yeah.
Great. So how can one learn how to build a diet plan specific to their sport? And should they try to mimic, these diets that they see professional athletes do?
Okay, you're cutting off, but I think you asked me about how to build a meal plan. Is that it was the question? We're having a bad connection, I'm sorry.
Yeah, but one more for specific to your. Yeah, so Deborah, sorry about that. We're talking about trying to build a specific diet plan to our sport. Whether if you're a swimmer or if you're a basketball player, and trying to meet those individual sport needs.
Okay, so good question. Depending on the type of exercise, if it's aerobic or anaerobic, anaerobic is basically weightlifting, right? And the aerobics are the other ones, which is being a swimmer, a runner, playing basket, etc. So for those that are aerobic, you benefit from carbs. Carbs, especially in the pre-workout, the loading phase. So when you get to the workout or the exercise or the game, you are ready because you have all this glycogen in your system. Glycogen is basically the energy. Once you eat, the glucose converts into glycogen and gets stored in your muscles, in your liver, and it's ready and available for the athlete when need to perform. Because as an athlete, you need to perform, and sometimes you need to perform hard. So you need that glycogen level to be really high. And that's why you need carbs, and that's why you need good proteins and good fats. Contrary to the anaerobic, like a weightlifter, that person needs more protein and less carbs because it's not really engaging into an exercise that needs oxygen. That's why it's called anaerobic. So if you are not really using that aerobic feature of your system, you are not really using that much oxygen, you will not benefit from loading on carbs. You're going to get fat if you do that. You don't need it. So for an anaerobic person, an athlete that is anaerobic, focus more on proteins and fats. For aerobic athlete, focus more on carbs and medium range for proteins and fats. I hope that was simple. I tried to really make it simple. It boils down to the aerobic and anaerobic exercise because that's really what it boils down. An athlete, aerobic or anaerobic. Was that clear?
Yeah, that's great advice. That's an easy place to start for.
Yeah, I'm trying to really make it simple so people understand.
No, and absolutely, and I think this is a great building block for some of our student athletes to, work towards developing those proper habits. Right. I thought the part where you had mentioned, that this is a lifestyle thing versus, a gimmick diet is really important to, understand. So following up with that, how far ahead of the workout should someone consume their pre-workout meal?
Okay, pre-work meal, if you're talking, for example, that you're going to work out, let's say at noon. So you can have a good breakfast like around 8. So you have enough time to digest, process, metabolize all that food and nutrients that you ate in your breakfast. So you are ready for noon. But if you are arriving in the morning to, let's imagine that campus is open and you arrive to work out, to train. You don't want to eat a large breakfast right away before, an hour before, because then you cannot really perform. You're digesting at that moment. You're going to have a conflict of interest in your system trying to digest your food and produce the energy so you can perform. So you don't want to do that. So if you have enough time to get to that pre-workout, 2 or 3 hours, then you can have a nice breakfast or a nice lunch or a nice meal with the perfect ratios, as I said, carbs, proteins, fats. But if you are close to the performance, let's say you're only an hour away, then you don't want to do that. You want to probably have let's say a protein shake. I haven't mentioned those, but they are important. Having a good protein shake like an hour before, that's easy to digest. It goes to your bloodstream rather fast because your body doesn't have to work a lot in processing, in, you know, like would you process in a breakfast, which basically has, I don't know, complex carbs, fats, proteins, eggs, etc. You know, so yeah, a good rule of thumb will be an hour before workout, a good smoothie, good protein shake.
Great. So during your presentation, you mentioned behavior modification as a component to weight loss. Can you just speak to that? Because I think that's a really important thing for our student athletes to get a grasp of.
Sure. And you're right when you say that it's a very main component. It is because here we are with a lot of information in the internet, or the friend of the colleague of the friend, you know, all these people that they say that they know what they're doing, and they start promoting things like, oh yeah, eat little meals, 5 or 6 throughout the day. Really, who said that? What's the science behind that? No. But people do it, and they get used to it. And not only have these 6 meals, now they have, in between the meals, they have snacks. Because somebody said to them, oh, snacking is good. It holds your hand between one meal and the other. No, you don't need to hold your hand between one meal and the other. You don't need the snack, because that snack is producing, again, as I mentioned before, it's producing a spike of insulin. Why? Because the glucose goes up and the insulin goes right away to try to bring down that glucose. So behavioral modification in a diet is crucial, because we need to sort of like relearn to eat, to nourish our bodies. Get out of all these nonsense fat notions and diets, and use the science, use the knowledge. If you don't have the knowledge, consult with a nutritionist or with a dietitian, and they will show you the right way, backed by science, why we need to do this or why we need to do that. And that's how the behavioral changes start. Because if I explain to you, okay, Ryan, instead of those 5 meals, we're gonna only do 3. And this is why, the reason why we're gonna do 3. I'm gonna walk you through, I'm gonna encourage you, I'm gonna hold you by the hand. You're gonna understand, you're gonna change that behavior. You're gonna say, oh, you know what? I'm not gonna do those 6 anymore, I'm gonna do only 3. But now you are confident that you are doing the right thing, and you're gonna change your behavior for good. You're not going back. I don't think so you're gonna go back, because now you know better. So it is crucial to have a behavioral change. You can try by yourself, and if you cannot do it by yourself, you can also try with a professional. But at the end of the day, it's a key component to losing weight. And not only to lose weight, to change when you want to change, when you want to increase also the weight, you need a behavioral change. You want to maintain, probably you don't need much to change because what you're doing is maintaining where you are. But if you want to gain or you want to lose, and I know a lot of people want to lose, you need to make a behavioral change for good. Need to change the intake, need to adjust certain things, change, I don't know, leave the sugar out, all these things. But each person has needs a specific tailored program because not everybody is the same. Not every goal is the same. So we need to first understand the goal of the person, see where this person is in terms of physiology, if the cholesterol level is good, if the thyroid is functioning properly, if it has a fatty liver or not, if it has food intolerance or not. All these things come into the equation. And as part of that equation, behavioral change is key. It's a key factor. All right. I can't hear you.
Yeah, I think that's really important that, you're giving some really great tips, but everybody's situation is going to have some variance.
Right. Everybody's
depending on their age or sport. Yeah,
right.
Absolutely. So this is kind of a question that we touched upon a little bit in our other webinars when we talked about campus supports, but I'm going to let you speak to this one because you've already kind of mentioned it with the food pantry at Queens College. Foods are very expensive, but I feel that's why people eat unhealthy. So what is a cheaper way you guys would suggest to eat healthy, and how can you guys help?
Okay, a way to eat healthy and not spend a lot of money. The first I will do is, and this goes for all my CUNY people, because I love CUNY. I love CUNY. So for all my CUNY people, we all have in all the campuses, or in most of them, we have food pantries. So please reach out to campus, like in this case, Queens College. You can reach out to Queens College. You can visit us in the social media, in Instagram, in Twitter, and you can find the hours, you can find the process, how to reach out. Because I know due to COVID-19, a lot of things stopped, and this was not the exception. At some point we had to stop. But now we are, back in business. We are working, we're open, and we're helping. So the first step for all the CUNY athletes will be go to your campus and search for that food pantry. As I mentioned, most of the campuses, they have already a food pantry. So you can get good food, and it's not gonna cost you. And you can really supplement all your meals with a variety of food, because these are really good places. They have everything. So that's one. Two, don't be afraid of going for the organic stuff. Sometimes in the supermarket they have even specials and they are organic. The people is just afraid to, I won't go organic because it's expensive. I was in the supermarket yesterday and I was able to see a dozen of organic eggs for $2.99. I said, wow, cost exactly as the regular ones, and these are healthier. And that's one example. I mean, like that, you have many. Like if you buy, I don't know, radishes, it turns out the radishes regulars are like, okay, $1, and the ones that are organic are $1.10. So it is not a big difference. It's more like the myth than really what the reality is. And nowadays with this COVID, a lot of things are adjusted even down. So check the prices. Don't be afraid of checking the organic area. It's for your benefit, it's for your health. So you're gonna get that good prices, good food in the supermarkets. As I mentioned, the food pantries, that's another way. And even if you have to go to I don't know, let's say a McDonald's, because some people will tell me, hey, you know what? I can afford this menu at McDonald's, but I can't do anything else. Even in that situation, you can try to make it healthy. Don't go for, you know, the super triple burger. Go for probably a side salad. They have side salads in there. They have other healthy options. They're not super healthy, but at least they are different than their standard of eating just French fries. You know, a salad, a side salad, it's 1,000 times better than eating the French fries, and that still is, you know, is McDonald's or fast food. The same for Dunkin' Donuts. If you go to Dunkin' Donuts, you don't have to have the donut. You can have the coffee, and probably they sell wraps with, they call it the breakfast wrap, and it comes with a little wrap and egg inside. That is a lot healthier compared to a donut. Again, I'm not recommending that, but in the event that that's really what you can do, then yes, it's better than having a donut. So you have to be resourceful, you have to be creative, work with your macros, think that you need more protein, less carbs, fats, but good fats, not bad fats, and work with your budget. Work with your budget and your macros. And when I say macros, it's protein, carbs, and fats. That would be the advice. Can't hear you.
Sorry, Deborah, you've been really gracious with your time. I just want to, I want to have one more question. One of our students just sent in, and it says, what would you recommend that we eat between our meals? I have heard drinking coffee helps with that.
Okay.
So you had mentioned like that, counting snacks as meals.
Okay, so here we go again. So I hope that I answered this question and the person understands. When you ask me what to eat in between meals, nothing. In between meals, you're not supposed to eat nothing. Because if you eat between meals, then that's a meal in itself. Don't eat between meals. You produce insulin, you will never lose weight. It's like the car never stops. The engine keeps on running. That's what you're doing with your system. You eat breakfast and then in 2 hours, what am I gonna eat until lunch? Nothing. You can drink water, you can drink black tea or black coffee or herbal teas. Teas like the green tea or like the Earl Grey tea or coffee, but no milk, no sugars, and not even sweeteners. Because a sweetener will make your body believe that there is some sugar coming down and it's gonna affect your insulin anyway. It's gonna be less of a spike, but still there's gonna be a reaction. Plus, the sweetener can also damage your microbiome. So that's a different story. But just sticking to your question of what to eat in between meals, nothing. You are not supposed to be grazing and eating throughout the day. That's not right. Got it. That's the answer for that.
Great, thank you. This is kind of a question that I thought would come up, but didn't come up, and let's close on this question here. What is your professional opinion about like supplements as far as like protein or pre-workouts and different things like that? I know you talked about protein shakes,
Right.
but can you kind of just address that question real quickly?
Sure. One of the things that I want to mention is that out there in the market, there are so many things that you need to be careful. That's number one. Because everybody claims to have the best product and they don't. So that is one thing to be careful. Second, depending on what you're doing, you need specific things. Like I mentioned, a pre-workout will go great with a protein shake. But we can also use supplements for after a workout to support, like, for example, glutamine supports the system, the digestive system, and also supports the recovery of the muscles. Leucine is another one. But I will stick with things from brands like, for example, I like a lot sports research. Not recommending them to anybody. I don't have any kind of affiliation either, but I consume those myself because that's a good brand. It's a really good brand. So yeah, supplements. For example, other people consume pre-workouts, which basically is some sort of caffeine product. Why don't you just have a coffee? But no, they like to, oh no, I need this monster something drink as a pre-workout. No, just have a cup of coffee. In fact, I will have a glass of water with a tablespoon apple cider vinegar. That really works. But again, some people like protein shakes. Other people like, what do you call this? Forgot the name of this. Help me here. I forgot the name. Anyway, doesn't matter, I think.
Are you referring to a pre-workout?
Yeah, I forgot the name, but anyway, it's a
supplement of some sort. Okay.
So anyway, it was a pre-workout. I forgot the brand. I wanted to say the brand, but it doesn't matter at the end. So anyway, depending on what you're doing, that's why you need to adjust and get the right supplement in the event that you really need it. Some people, like, oh, let's have hydroxycut so I get lose weight. Don't do that, because whatever is in that hydroxycut is not really doing any magic to you. It's gonna mess up your liver, it's gonna cost you money, and it's not gonna do the job. You get better results by avoiding and saving that money from the supplements and get your food organic. That's a better deal. Don't go crazy with the supplements. Get one or two, but don't go crazy. I know people, they go crazy. They buy the whole GNC, they have it at home. You don't need that. You don't need that kind of supplementation. Get your food organic. It's much better. But if you're gonna get something, if I have to pick something, I'll get a good protein shake. That's what I will get.
Okay, great. Thank you. I think this is a lot of really helpful information for our student athletes. And I really like how you kind of put it in the context of, the circumstances that our typical CUNY student athlete would be dealing with currently based on, just the nature of what's going on. So, Deborah, first of all, I want to thank you for your time. For all of our student athletes, this information will be available at cunyAthletic.com, as well as some of the information that Deborah shared throughout with her PowerPoint. So for the CUNY Athletic Conference, thanks for joining us with our Talk About It Tuesday session, sponsored by Hospital for Special Surgery. Deborah, a huge thank you once again.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Kim. And I have also to thank CUNY and Queens College especially. I love my Queens College. And the people that make this possible, like George Anopoulos. Thank you so much, George. And my colleagues, Kate Henao and Nati Aldovino, because they helped me also. They gave me some advice, because as I mentioned, I go too drastic sometimes, but they keep me check. So shout out to you guys. And thank you everybody, and thank you, CUNY. And if you have questions, please feel free to reach out to me via social media or via email. Once again, thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Kim. And I'll be here anytime that you invite me. Thank you.